Okay, so my article this week is called History is Alive, Teaching Young Children About Changes Over Time, written by Janet Elliman and Jared Brophy. So this article pretty much talked about teaching elementary students change over time through timelines. So it gives some facts and then examples, so I'll kind of talk about that. So actually in the 70s, educators believed that elementary students have not reached a level of cognitive capacity to understand history. Um, which is amazing. So really, you think what all was being taught about history then. But over the years, they started to understand that elementary students can actually understand history, and they can do that through chronology. So change over time, events over time. So really, in the classroom, things that teachers need to remember is to keep a balanced and integrated social studies curriculum that has powerful ideas and has the opportunity for potential life applications. So you want to make sure that everything in social studies usually does have real life application that students can relate to or think about in the future. So with making timelines, it's not enough to just make the timeline. You have to use it to learn. In using artifacts, drawings, pictures, students start to develop a sense of appreciation for how things were during that time period that they are talking about. So, and another thing about teaching history in general, teachers want to avoid their students starting to develop presentism. And this is pretty much the view that things in the past were weak, people were ignorant. You want to have historical empathy. You want your students to have that as well, so that they can really do appreciate how things were. And another thing with timelines, they should show how and why. So each thing should have a why was it this way, and when you go to the next thing, how did this happen and why did it happen? And another thing that I found interesting with timelines that I had never actually thought about, it says history is alive, present things that can happen in the future. So for example, in one of these, okay, so I'll just go ahead and talk about this example because it kind of ties into it. So the students were learning about farming over time. And she used books, pictures to describe this. So together they built a timeline. But once they got done with their timeline, they had an extension activity to actually think about a machine or tool that could be used in the future. So I thought that was pretty neat. In another example, students were talking about transportation and how it's changed over time. But before they actually made the timeline, they made a prediction one. So they predicted what it was like with pictures and all of that. And then the teacher kept it and for the students to look at over time. Then when they got done at the end, they went back and revisited it. And it was interesting for students to see how their predictions actually lined up with the real thing. So that's pretty much it. Timelines can be really neat to use in the classroom, and I think students really enjoy them.